Hi, welcome to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn. You may notice that I'm in a different setting for this show, and some people who've seen a couple of the past episodes may know that when I sit in this chair, it means I'm going to be doing a book review. I've done two in the past, and for the third, I actually took a book that I've been kind of dipping back into lately in preparations for some future shows on Belgian beer that I want to get into. I feel like I've been neglecting one of the huge canons of beerdom and a personal type of beer that I love, which is Belgian beer. So I started looking back into my library. I've got quite a few books about Belgian beer, but I found myself kind of going back to one more than the others, and then I decided, well, shoot, I really just think it's time for me to reread this book in its entirety. So I began to, and as I was reading it, in fact, I still have my place marker in here, and I'm not taking it out. Anyway, yeah, so I figured, well, I'm reading this book. I really was kind of falling in love with the book again, and I figured, well, this would be a great opportunity for me to do a book review of this book. So the book I'm talking about, long story short, is Michael Jackson's book, The Great Beers of Belgium. Yeah, Great Beers of Belgium is what it's called. It's so funny. I was talking to somebody else about this book, and I'd completely forgotten the name of the author. And to me, Michael Jackson, when I hear Michael Jackson, I think of this gentleman right here, this guy. Michael Jackson, the most famous, I'd say the greatest writer on beer of all time. Also a very noted whiskey expert, but really a guy who just knows everything. He knows a lot about wine, a lot about spirits and fortified wine, stuff like that. But really, I think beer was his passion, and he passed away a couple years ago. More than a couple, actually. But he was a very prolific writer, and really, for a while, was the only source of written beer knowledge in the English language that people could readily get, especially here in America. So, like I said, he's written many books, but this is one that I particularly love. Like I said, it's called The Great Beers of Belgium. And basically what he does is start out with just an overview of beer from a Belgian standpoint. So he'll talk about, the water, the yeast, the hops, the malt in some chapters, and then quickly goes into every style of Belgian beer that there is. And you'd be surprised how many there are. I think there are 13 to 15 chapters on Belgian beer styles. He starts with some of the wild beers, the lambics, but then he goes to the Flanders Brown, Flanders Red. He goes to the wit beers, the champagne beers, the amber beers, saisons, of course, and pilsners. They brew a lot of pils in Belgium. He also talks about, obviously, the Trappist beers, the Abbey beers, the doubles, the triples, stuff like that. In the case of the Abbey beers, the Trappist beers, he has a section on every Trappist beer, and on every Trappist Abbey that brews beer in Belgium. And he has every beer that they make discussed. This gentleman, Michael Jackson, had unprecedented access to these breweries, because for a while he was the only person really championing their cause. Especially in Belgium, a lot of these breweries were long traditioned, small family-run businesses that were passed down from generation to generation, and people in their own country oftentimes didn't really give two craps about their beer. So when someone was coming all the way from England and really just interested in what you were doing, and also very knowledgeable, the access this guy had, Michael Jackson, is amazing. I've never read a book where the author had the type of access and has the type of personal stories and the type of unique experiences just over and over and over again that this book has right here. He just goes to these small farmhouses and talks about not only who's currently brewing it, but that person's father. and how he had visited once before when that guy was brewing. And at that point, his grandfather was there, and they were all kind of talking, and then they had Saison together. And just, it struck me just as really kind of getting to the heart of what a lot of Belgian beer is, which is great. And the way it's laid out, I'll just show you, really. I just opened to a random page. This is Abbey Beers. He just goes by what he feels are important, I don't want to block my mic, kind of important examples of the style. It's fairly complete. It's fairly comprehensive. And just talks about the beers. Now, sometimes if it's a more notable brewery, he'll have a line item and a paragraph for every beer. Sometimes it'll just be for the brewery itself. He also gives you pictures of the bottle of beer and the glassware, which actually is very helpful because, believe me, I still, after years and years of drinking these beers and having had many of these beers, I forget beers. People ask me, "Have you had this beer?" I'll say, "No, I don't think so." They'll say, "You haven't?" I'll say, no. And then they'll show me the bottle. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I had that like 3 months ago." And it's hard to keep track of all this stuff. But when you can, to me, it's easier if I see the bottle, I remember it a lot easier than the name, especially if the name's in, you know, Dutch or French or something like that, and it's just not easy for me to remember. So I really like that about the beer as well. They also talk about, towards the back of the book, he talks about Belgian beers from other countries, and he has some American breweries in there, New Belgium and Ommegang, for example. And he also talks about where can you find great Belgian beer, either in a bar or in a store throughout the world. So he talks about Belgium. So you're in Belgium, you want to get some of these beers, but you can't travel all over the country. Okay, well, look up this different cities, you know, Antwerp, where to go. And then he'll have a paragraph about, you know, the best beer stores or the best beer bars in Antwerp, Belgium. And he might have some personal stories to relate to you. And he goes through, you know, really all over the world. In America, he probably has about 15 different states or more listed out there, each with, you know, several line items of where you can go. And really, really great. Incredibly dense with information. This is a book that I think you're probably going to have trouble, you know, it's not really a page burner or a page turner where you're just like, oh my God, I'm so engrossed in it. It's really, you kind of pick it up, you want to read about a style, and you just kind of browse it for a little while. The first time through, I did just kind of like churn through it, but I think it's more enjoyable if you kind of pick it up and browse through it. The other thing I will say is because it's so dense and there's so many different styles and so much information being thrown at you and so much little like offhanded comments that are like unique little nuggets of information. I mean, he'll offhandedly make a comment about, you know, let's say how Westmalle, what type of hop Westmalle uses in their triple. And that, more so than any other writer I've known, now goes down as gospel. And you'll find that time and time again in other beer books. People, you know, relating what Michael Jackson says. Kind of in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to say is, you know, there's just nuggets of really cool and unique information you won't get anywhere else in Michael Jackson's book, and I think it's certainly true here. That said, and because of that, this is not the best beginner beer book for somebody. You certainly can be a beginner and get it. I think this maybe was the first beer book I ever bought. The first truly intensive reading beer book, more than, you know, 50 beers to try before you die, like one of those. It's not those things aside, I had those in college and stuff like that. You know, it helps if you know what some of these styles are, at least. It helps to know what a Trappist beer is. It helps to know what a Saison is, and at least what it tastes like a little bit, just to be able to, I think, thoroughly enjoy it. On the other hand, it is a book that you can pick up and kind of read the first time, and then as you're out there drinking more and more beer, you know, kind of calling upon your reading of the book to help you and guide you. And then when you come back years later and read it a second time, it'll just be that much more enjoyable because you'll have a much better sense of what he's talking about in general, and you can really kind of pick up the subtleties. And that's what I'm finding now when I'm going through it. I think I'm giving it, this is the second full read I've done, but I also picked this book up quite a bit as a reference point. And that's exactly what I was initially trying to do when I started thinking about doing some more episodes on Belgian beer. So I think I've talked for long enough about this book. Highly recommended book by Michael Jackson. Great Beers of Belgium. It was the book. I have the 6th edition. I don't know what edition this is now. I probably got this, you know, 4 years ago or something like that. But you know, it's great. It was originally written in the 90s, but it's been updated by Michael Jackson himself many, many times. I think every couple of years it seems like there was an update going on. The information I have found here is quite relevant, and I think there's been at least one posthumous update. And also the photography is amazing. Really awesome, candid, and also glamour shots of not just the beers, but also the brewing process, the brewers themselves, and taken by Michael Jackson himself, so a pretty talented photographer as well. That's about it for the Great Beers of Belgium. Hopefully you like this book review. I've been getting a couple different requests to do more of these, so tell me what you think. Tell me if this is something that you find interesting or unique, or something that you want me to do more of, less of, and what type of beer books are you interested? What do you want to learn when you pick up a beer book? What are you hoping? What is your ideal beer book going to have? And then if I know of books that have some of that in them, then I'll do those on the next beer book review. So I think I'm saying this for the second time now. I think I've gone on long enough about this book. Definite thumbs up for me for Michael Jackson's book, Great Beers of Belgium. That's about it for me. Until next time, I've got some reading to do and some great beer to drink, and hopefully you do too.